Welcome, everybody. Uh, Welcome to 2022 and our first leadership webinar this year. Our subject today is transform your sales team with bold behavior coaching. Transform your sales team with bold behavior coaching. And how do you get heroic salespeople when there's no dragon attacking the village? That's a related subtitle. So there are three key selling skills for effective selling. And if team members can internalize these skills, it aligns them with typical leadership perspective. Let's take a look at those skills. The most important are entrepreneurial skills, and they'll be the major theme today. Then there's how do you handle risk? How do you assuage the prospect's risk aversion? And finally, there are management control issues, which we address in the standard sales call. You need all three, but today's webinar is mostly about entrepreneurial skills. So what kind of behavior do we mean when we talk about entrepreneurial skills? And I'm going to provide more content and detail on some of these things. Perhaps the most important is do or die versus best efforts. You know, mom and dad taught me when I was a teenager, if I gave it my best efforts, they were happy. But what I discovered when I started my first business, that if you give it your best efforts, you probably fail 100% of the time. You need do or die, total commitment. And just to give you an example of how you could bring do or die into your company if you don't have a dragon attacking the village. Let's say you set an objective like one warm introduction a month. Everybody's going to get one warm introduction a month. So you have an accountability meeting, a one-to-one, let's say once a month. And you sit down and you ask, hey, how'd you do, Joe? How'd you do, Jane? Did you get an introduction? Oh, no, I really tried hard, boss, but this month I didn't get a warm introduction. The key question is, how many introductions does Joe or Jane owe in the second month? You may be surprised to find that Joe or Jane are going to make their very best efforts to get one. Using their best efforts, they could get 0 every month or 12 zeros in a year. A do or die basis is if you don't get 1 in month 1, you need 2 in month 2. That's do or die. So we want to get our team to a do or die basis. In order to really embrace do or die, we have to be able to earn the right to each step of the process. So the antipode to earning the right is an entitlement attitude, and we have nothing coming to us in selling. We have to be business sellers as well as social sellers, overcoming the tyranny of the or. More of that in a few moments. So we have to be able to be comfortable with and ultimately manage uncertainty. One of the ways you manage the uncertainty of selling is for every dollar you need, put 5 good dollars in the pipeline. How do you combine humility with bold behavior? Is this not, again, a tyranny of the or? More of that in another minute or two. And then you have to become good at resolving conflict, often first creating conflict. Now, this issue of resolving conflict will be the subject of our next webinar in February. Now, why do salespeople avoid this kind of entrepreneurial behavior, this bold behavior? Very often it's because they more embrace social values than business values. So a social seller wants people to like them, and that's their dominant motivation. And that's important. At the same time, we need business values, which means we need to earn the right to profitable business relationships. For social values, I use as my metaphor, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. For business selling, I cite this Harvard Business Review article from March 2010, In a Downturn, Provoke Your Customer. Now again, it's not one or the other. It's a meld of the two. The problem is very often salespeople focus so much on social selling and so little on business selling, they don't close sales. They don't even ask for the orders. And if the prospect's in a bad place, are we helping them if we don't challenge them? Now, why do salespeople avoid doing the bolder behavior? Because they might just associate it with something feeling slimy, motivated either directly or indirectly by work like Death of the Salesman, where the anti-hero, a salesperson, is presented as a slimy loser, cheats on his wife, commits suicide. Now, an alternative that we recommend strongly is the salesperson as hero. As source material, we offer Hero with 1,000 Faces by Joseph Campbell. Campbell studied hero myths in hundreds of cultures over thousands of years to try to trace the path or journey of the hero. And the hero becomes a hero when they volunteer to go forward into the unknown. And although we don't face real live dragons, we face dragons of the mind when we sell. Let's take a look at some of the dragons of the mind that we have to overcome. There's guilt. So buyers feel guilty about changing what they do. There's ignorance. There's complacency. There's laziness. You've probably heard the statement, oh, that buyer is too lazy to live. And then there's the closed mindset. Now, this last one, opening the closed mindset, is what truly raises the salesperson to the heroic level, because that's what moves civilization forward, opening the closed mindset. I want to go back to this tyranny of the or idea. Are we social sellers or are we business sellers? Are we humble or do we manifest bold behavior? Bold behavior is our theme today, and business selling is one type of bold behavior. Now, in the book pictured to the right, Built to Last, Collins and Porras talk about this idea of overcoming the tyranny of the or. It's a false alternative. Are we humble or are we bold? Are we social sellers or are we business sellers? What we need is an and. Great companies, they get to an and the way you do this, the way you earn the right to bold behavior, you have to earn the right to bold behavior, excuse me. We're going to look at that at the next slide. So the way you go from humility to bold behavior and embrace both is by earning the right. And what you need here is an and, not an or. Great companies get to the end. The same thing is true with, are you a social seller or are you a business seller? You want an and, not an or. So we've got to earn the right. So how do we earn the right? The central metaphor we advocate is the prospect is on a false summit. So the prospect's on that summit that you see, and he or she is looking down. And our job is to get them to look up, because they don't notice that right near them, there's a higher peak of well-being. So our job is to bring them to that higher peak of well-being. And that's the essence of persuasion. The prospect is looking down, and we bring them to a higher summit of well-being. And that's how we earn the right to access and earn the right to the business. And ideally, it's a blue ocean. It's a blue ocean peak, which means it's uncontested space. And that's a whole nother subject. How do we get to uncontested space? Now, getting your sales team to do this behavior may require a paradigm shifting activity. The idea of the paradigm shift was popularized in Kuhn's book, The Structure of Scientific Revolutions. And it turns around two ideas, the anomaly and the paradigm shift. Now, Kuhn was studying how the fraternity of physicists went from the Newtonian macroscopic view of the world to the Einsteinian quantum view of the world, tiny microscopic, atomistic. And it started with an anomaly. I think there was some marks, something on x-rays that were unexplained, and that was the anomaly, which led to the paradigm shift. That's our physics lesson for today. Now, what was the anomaly in selling? The anomaly is too many people avoid bold behaviors. This is crazy. People go into selling and they're avoiding bold behaviors. So the paradigm shift or shifting activity is select an activity which is doable but seems impossible. And then I'll coach to overcome self-limiting assumptions. Now, the picture you see on the screen is of Roger Bannister beating the 4-minute mile. Until he did that, it was thought to be impossible. Like everybody thought our heart, our lungs, our sinews, muscles, a human being is not made to run a 4-minute mile, and yet he did it. In the year after he did it, somebody beat his time by maybe half a second. And it was because it was believed it could be done. So can we take the lesson here of a self-limiting assumption and bring it into our business to coach our sales team to bolder behavior? Well, one way to do this is with testimonials. A case history. I had a client who had about 50 salespeople, and I was doing the due diligence preparation. And I said, could you show me the testimonials? He said, we don't have one because our clients don't want anybody to know that we do business together. They sell a premium product. We sell products that are not perfect, and they don't want anybody to know we do business with them. And I said, yeah, but then how do you deal with risk aversion? And he said, well, go ahead, knock yourself out, talk to the sales team. So I did, and here's what they told him. You don't understand, Andy. These are, by the way, these salespeople, these are salt of the earth, dyed in the wool. They've been selling for 5, 10, 20, sometimes 30 years. And they said, Andy, it's impossible. We have trucks that ship our goods, and when our trucks deliver, we can't put our names on the side. Can't do it. Impossible. Well, you know the old saying, it's sometimes better to be lucky than smart. There was one gal on the sales team, new hired, I think her name was Jane, and she had only been with the company 3 or 4 months. And guess what? Jane didn't know it was impossible. Can you believe that? So within 2 weeks, Jane had the first testimonial. Now, subsequent to that, how do you think all these, dyed in the wool, salt of the earth salespeople have been doing it 5, 10, 20, 30 years? They felt kind of silly. So within a month, everybody had a testimony. I think we have about 50 now. That's an example of a paradigm shifting activity. Encouraging out-of-the-box thinking can also be helpful. In another webinar, and so I'll just talk about this briefly, I talked about the idea of the prospect you'll never close. In my case, it was Sam's Club. I was trying to sell them, this for my second business, a product I developed. And I developed 5 lines to sell them because I knew I would never close them. I knew I would never close them. And they didn't buy it, although I got into their planogram room. But I was able to sell those lines to other regular customers who would buy my regular stuff, and I didn't need to do out-of-the-box thinking for them. So that's another way to go to bold behavior, is to give yourself a prospect you'll never close. What's new here today is this one idea of challenging assumptions. I once had a client who did who sold weddings, and it's ideal to do a one-call close. And they did about 10% close ratio, one-call close. That's very expensive to follow up, and somebody else could get the business. So everybody knew it was impossible to do a one-call close for 2 or 3 reasons. First of all, the whole wedding party had to be there. And on the first visit, it's usually not the whole group, maybe just the bride, mother of the bride. The second reason is people have to taste the food. And a third reason is they need to see a party in action. And these things usually don't happen, all of them anyway, on the first visit. So we challenged those assumptions, and we came up with an offer with a discount if people would close on the first visit. And our closing ratio went up to about 40% one-call close. So that's an example of challenging your existing assumptions to get to bolder behavior. Now, if you're talking to a prospect, sometimes salespeople don't draw out all the information they ought to. So you might want to help them with idea starters. These are gentle challenges, questions I'm curious about, tell me more, I'm wondering, would you help me understand this? These are actually ones that you could use if there's a negotiation. And then there are stronger challenges. So helping your team, this is coaching them to bolder behavior. Sometimes it can be with just how they start the conversation. Tell me why this doesn't work for you. I'm working for these assumptions. Are you? We're both dug in. Tell me your passion around this. And that's not my experience. May I share with you what I have found to be so? And here's even bolder language. When someone's not really communicating, here's the story I'm making up about what's going on. Could you set me straight? And that's when the customer's not being responsive. Here's a last idea. Bold vision, bold behavior. Bold vision, bold behavior. If you're not getting what you want in a certain situation, are you marrying bold vision to bold behavior? Quick story. The way I got into the business of sales training and consulting is I had hired an accounting firm, and they had made a presentation to me after we got started, and I thought it could be better. And I said to the person who presented, "Is this how you normally present?" And he said, "Yeah, it was pretty good, wasn't it?" And I said, "Well, gee, I thought it could be better." So after a couple of weeks, I called this guy up and I suggested to him that he invite me in to teach him. They had 7 partners in the CPA firm, teach them how to sell. So they invited me in for a conversation, and they asked me questions like this. "So Andy, did you ever do this before for CPA firms?" "No." "Do you have any testimonials that could show the success you've had with this program you're thinking of giving us?" "No." "Have you ever done this at any time, anywhere, for anybody?" "No." "Do you have some curriculum you could show me to show us, to give us an idea of what this looked like?" "No." "Then what the hell makes you think you could do this?" I said, "Well, I saw you sell, it was like this, and it could be like this, and I can fill the gap." Well, they didn't know what to do with me. Bottom line, they liked my ideas, but this was so out of the box. So what they did is they invited me out on a sales call, and my instructions were to zip my lips, look, listen, and debrief afterwards. For the first hour, I followed directions, then I couldn't take it, raised my hand, asked 2 questions, closed the sale, and they hired me. Bold vision, bold behavior. This was actually written up in an Accounting Today article. I was younger and handsomer there. I'm the guy on the left, and Bert's the guy on the right. He's the one with whom I started the conversation. Well, we know that Rome wasn't built in a day, so we've almost come to the end of today's presentation. If you have any questions, please write to me at andyg@urgencybasedselling.net. We have 3 special offerings I want to mention to you before I tell you about next month's free webinar. We have a research package that's particularly useful when calling on large prospects. We have an objections handling package, and we help hiring new sales team members. These are all new offerings this year. Now, our research package includes the website upgrade. For instance, here's how my website looked in March 2016. Here's how it looks today. It's an upgrade. In addition, we are helping you estimate the DISC, the personality of a prospect you're calling on. This is really great, particularly on first calls. So that's a new package that we have available, and as well as, again, helping with hiring. So our webinar next month, which is 2/14 at 10:30 a.m., is creating, managing conflict in selling. So thanks for joining us today. I hope this launches a great new year for you. Call me if you have any questions, and hope to see you again next month, February 14th at 10:30. Bye now.